This week's headlines from the Premier League are Arsenal and City both win, but Pep's not happy with yet another player.
Villa come from behind to win at West Ham, while Chelsea see off Everton to complete the top four.
Salah comes off the bench in Liverpool's victory against Brighton, but was that his Anfield's full-time farewell?
Tottenham tanked at Forest.
Fulham beat Burnley.
And in the huge North East derby, Sunderland called a tune as Newcastle's centre-forward scores the winning goal.
Hello, I'm Steven Caulker.
And I'm Rob Wotton. Welcome to Kicking Off, bringing you all the Premier League headlines and analysis. You can listen to it, sit back, enjoy viewing it, rip it off, take it off, and pass it off as your own thoughts to your friends down the pub. Okay, let's kick off on Kicking Off with Arsenal and City going toe-to-toe. But Arsenal needed 2 late own goals in order to win it. So are they feeling the pressure? Are they starting to crack, Stephen? And how will they feel with City being on their coattails and Arsenal being the front runners here?
I think everybody in the Emirates Stadium will be breathing a big sigh of relief. They needed that goal to go in the dying seconds. It looked like Jesus had actually scored it, but he ran off very humbly admitting it wasn't him. Are Arsenal wobbling? It looks that way to me. It's not been their best couple of weeks. They've got an unbelievable squad. Yes, they've got injuries. They have got injuries, but they've still got a squad big enough to be able to miss certain players and still have a very, very strong starting 11 plus plenty of superstars coming off the bench. I think with recent history in the last few years, I think the psychological side of what's going on at Arsenal will be playing its part. But having said that, they're still top and they have got a lot of new players. So let's see what this Christmas period brings. Usually, this is the period that decides titles.
I guess the other way of looking at it as well is if you can't win by your dominance and your skill and your flair, you'll take any luck you can. That's sometimes what separates a title-winning side from a non-title-winning side. 2 own goals in that one in the North East derby as well. 3 own goals this weekend. The average number of own goals, I've crunched the stats. They reckon there's normally between 30 and 50 own goals a season. However, it doesn't get close to match day 10 of the 2014-15 season, which had a record high of 6 own goals in it. Rip that off, take it down the pub, use it as your own when your mates are in there going, a lot of own goals this weekend. Right, Stephen, are we seeing more own goals? Why do we see so many this weekend? And dare I ask the question, what's it like to score an own goal?
Well, it's one of the worst feelings there is. Scoring at the other end is the best feeling, as every goal-scoring striker will tell you. But when you put it in your own net, I don't think there's any worse feeling. You just want the ground to swallow you up as you just feel the 40,000 fans around you, plus your teammates and goalkeeper staring down your neck. It's not a nice feeling. And this weekend we saw a lot of own goals. Interesting that Newcastle own goal was very similar to the Wolves own goal. The ball gets whipped in. Both were really good finishes. Waldemard's finish was ridiculous. It's one that he'd be proud of at the other end, and same with the Wolves defender. So the thing I would say in their defence is when the ball gets whipped in at such pace and you've got movement, you've got loads of movement, which you're always going to get in the Premier League. You've got top players in the box and they don't stand on their heels. They're there, they're agile, they're on their toes, and that movement. So you just turn your head or you turn your hips just slightly to see what's going on to the side, and next thing you know, the ball's off your head and it spins in. So it is a lot of bad luck when it goes in that direction, of course, but we have to defend our box and we work day in, day out, week in, week out to obviously work on our clearances.
More aerial bombardment, does that necessarily equal own goals going up then? Is that what you're saying?
I just think that teams are now putting the ball in the box more often, which is great because that's what we want to see. We've been through the last, 5 to 8 years of everyone passing the ball around the back. It still happens. I know we're going to come to that a bit later on in the show, but at least now teams are actually, when they're in the final third, putting it in the box, shooting, crossing. There's nothing worse for me than watching a game or playing a game and the ball goes out wide and I see my winger take a touch and pass backwards. You might as well put me out there. If you've got a winger with ability to take a player on 1v1, please go and do it and whip the ball in the box. When you put it in the box, you've got every chance that the ball either skims off the head of the striker, which would be great assist, or the defender, the unfortunate defender who puts his foot there, can't quite clear the ball. It goes in the back of the net. So I actually, on that note, can't believe that you don't get an assist for that. I can't believe it. Because I've done that a few times where I've either headed the ball back across and it's gone in, off the guy's back or whatever. No goal, no assist. I think that's outrageous. So if there's anyone listening that could change those rules, please do, because there's a couple of people today that should be going on with assists to their name.
Yeah, we saw that crossing as well in the Brentford Leeds game. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the end of that one. Great header from him. Proper centre forwards header. But okay, you want assists for the own goals, but I'm kind of thinking, Steven Caulker, you don't want a league table of own goal scorers. Richard Dunn, I think, is at the top of that one, but Steven Caulker would get a mention. Talk us through your, I was going to say favourite. Talk us through your most memorable own goal then.
Okay, most memorable. So I've had a few. I don't know if I had that many to top the table, but I've had a few. I had a couple in Turkey and I had maybe one in the Premier League, maybe more, I don't know. But my most memorable one, for sure, was the one against Liverpool. And Richard Dunn, who you mentioned, stopped me from going forward. So it was 2-2. We're in the 90-something minute. It'd been a hell of a game at Loftus Road. And I wanted to go forward because we had a deep free kick that I thought, let's just put it in the box. I want to get forward. And Richard Dunn tells me, Cooks, you're staying. I said, no, I want Cooks, you're staying. And he's a big man and he's far more experienced than I was at the time. So I listened and I stayed. The ball goes into the box. Liverpool clear it. They're running down the other end of the pitch. I'm now, of course, in a defensive position, attempting to stop it. And I believe it was Raheem Sterling who plays it across the box. And as I plant my foot, it goes into the back of the net. If I didn't score it, Balotelli would have scored it. But I would have preferred Balotelli to score it, of course, because there's a photo of me just with my head in my hands as the ball goes into the back of the net and just sitting there with utter despair. It wasn't the best feeling.
So the gap between the top two stays the same because Arsenal won, courtesy of those two own goals. City also won at Crystal Palace. Haaland with a couple, but Phil Foden with a good goal as well. Although Pep Guardiola afterwards said he was great defensively, Foden, but going forward he needs to do a lot more. This is deja vu, isn't it, from Pep Guardiola, especially on kicking off with you. Okay, what's he trying to do here?
Demand the absolute maximum from Phil Foden, because if you ask me, he's a man in form, in fine form. He's been incredible this season. We're seeing him back to how he was a couple of years ago, and I'm excited as an England fan to see him playing so well. But I think Pep just demands and demands and demands from all of his players. We saw it last week with Turkey, and we're seeing it this week with Phil Foden. Listen, for me, if I'm Phil Foden, I take that as a compliment. If I come off, score a really good goal, if you score from outside the box, it's a good goal, right? So he scored a good goal, and I'm still getting criticism from my manager that I could do more going forward. Take it as a compliment.
What a corker.
Okay, here we go on kicking off. The time we get to ask Steven Caulker, who's had a corker. Have you got a double award this week?
Well, actually, Rob, this week I was tempted to go with three. Hugo Ekitike for me was incredible and definitely worth a mention. After scoring 2 goals this weekend, getting the win for Liverpool, and under the pressure of Mo Salah's comments, that wasn't an easy thing to do. But the 2 men for me are Harry Wilson and Regis Bris. Regis Bris, I'll start with him. Wow, what a season he's having. What a first season in the Premier League he's having. I don't remember a promoted side ever doing as well as what Sunderland are doing. I mean, someone might fact check me right now, but certainly not in recent history. I've been a promoted side twice and we went down twice. Sunderland are flying. He definitely deserves a mention after that emphatic derby win today. And then the man, Harry Wilson. So never quite made it at Liverpool, but I will be very surprised if he's not at a huge club in the January window or the summer transfer window, because he's a man in fine form. Last week, excellent goal with the outside of his boot. This week, 2 assists and a goal. He's the man of the week, and I'm going to give him the Steven Caulker Award.
What a Reggie blinker.
Okay, so this part of the show is now time for me to ask you who has had a Reggie blinker stinker this week?
Okay, it goes out to all the teams, but I'm going to name two because it happened this weekend. First of all, Tottenham, what on earth were you doing for that first goal at the City Ground? What on earth is that about? Ridiculous. West Ham's first goal. Villa, what are you doing? You've had a Reggie blinker, both of you, but just singling out those two. It's not just those two. See it week in, week out. Teams trying to play out from the back at the wrong moment in the wrong way. You could pick 100 Robert Sanchez moments and whack them in there as well. Stephen, I understand the tactics. I understand about drawing teams onto you. I understand about trying to build up from the back. But please, 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 if it's not on, don't do it. You'll have a Reggie blinker.
If it's not on, go long. I've heard many managers say it before, and music to my ears, to be honest. I kind of want that permission from my manager that if it's not on, to trust my gut and go longer. But I have played under plenty of managers that have outright said, I do not want you to play that ball long. Just look for the short option. No matter what the circumstance, look for the short option. There must be an option and there will be an option, so stay calm. Unfortunately, for a lot of the players, week in, week out, we see that the option doesn't come, or it doesn't come in time because teams press really well. And I'm with you, what I saw today. Okay, Villa turned it round. It's less of a stinker in my opinion, but for Tottenham, it's ultimately cost them the game. Momentum swung to Nottingham Forest, and it's been a bad day at the office for Thomas Frank and Tottenham Hotspur.
Okay, this is the moment where I get to ask Stephen, what on earth? Right, I've got three candidates for you this week, so stand by. Here we go. Let's do the first what on earth. What on earth is Maresca talking about here? Just beaten Everton, comfortable win. Cole Palmer's back scoring goals. Everyone's safe. Everyone's happy. And then Maresca comes out with, I've had the worst 48 hours of my time at the club in the build up to this. What on earth is he doing? What on earth is he talking about?
I have no idea. They were asking him about Gusto's performance, and he just randomly slipped in there that he'd had the worst 48 hours at the club. I feel that there's obviously something gone in the background, because when asked was it to do with the fans, he clearly said we're very happy with the fans. So it's obviously something to do with the board. I don't know whether it's to do with transfers from the last window, transfers this window come in, or whether it's to do with them putting pressure on them for not having the best results the last couple of weeks. Really random, and I don't see this going away. The pressure is going to mount on Enzo Maresca to give an answer on who he was talking about. So watch this space. Enzo, what have you done?
The next what on earth is going on with Wilfred Nancy and Celtic. The mighty Celtic supposed to just turn up to this League Cup final, and it was theirs. However, they were beaten by St Mirren. It's his third defeat out of 3 games. You know what it's like in Scotland. You've played there. Half of Glasgow is going to be seething right now. So what on earth is going on?
I feel for the man. I feel for anyone who goes in and has so much scrutiny from the start. He was getting criticised last week for having his tactics board out. I mean, give the man a break. He's just arrived at the club. He needs time to get his message across to the players. If that's on the pitch, it's on the pitch. If it's in the dressing room, the training pitch, in the video room, every chance he gets, he'll be trying to get his ideas across to the team. However, it's not the same as the MLS. SPL is a tough place to play. I've never played at Celtic, but everybody knows in the UK the pressure that comes with being at Celtic or Rangers. So it's been a really difficult start for him. Half of Glasgow will be fuming. The other half will be laughing. Let's get that bit right. He's got to turn things around. I believe he'll be given time, absolutely. But he needs to turn things around, because at Celtic, anything less than the treble-winning treble that Brendan Rodgers did is deemed as unacceptable.
Okay. We could have called this next bit instead of what on earth, what the heck? Let's talk about Paul Heckingbottom, shall we? His Preston team currently third in the Championship after a win at Oxford yesterday. However, their manager is spending his third spell in his touchline ban. Right, he's got 3 already this year, calendar year. This one, though, trumps the lot. I'm going to read you his charge. This time it was for acting in an improper and or abusive manner and or using insulting words to a match official. And this, Stephen, this is the corker to go on it. This was before the match had even started. So he said something, done something inappropriate or aggressive or abusive to a match official, and the game hasn't even kicked off yet. What on earth is going on there?
I think he's got some deep-rooted resentments in there somewhere. For him to have been like that before the match, clearly there's something that he's been holding on to for a little while that he thought that he would let out, and the referee's clearly having none of it. So it's a strange one. I was actually having a conversation last week about I like my manager to be fired up on the sideline. I do. I like that. You're not necessarily fired up and screaming and shouting at us as players, but going back and forth with the ref, he's on your side, right? And it's that kind of team effort that I enjoy. However, being sent off before the game, that's a strange one. I've never experienced that in the dressing room, and I'm not sure how I'd react. I don't think that's the right way to do things. However, his team got the result. They're third in the championship, and it's going to be interesting to see how the club deal with that, because for that to be his third time this year, there's going to be a few question marks around that.
Steven gets his balls out.
Now on kicking off, it's time to get out Caulker's crystal balls as he looks into the future and predicts what's to come. But first, okay, credit where credit's due, my friend. Right, you got the Man United result right last week. Congratulations on that one. Then you went the extra mile with Manchester City, not only saying they'd win, but also saying Haaland would score. And you also got the Tottenham score right in the Champions League. So a round of applause. And let's see how you get on this week. Let's start with the Monday Night Football, shall we? Manchester United against Bournemouth. Which way is that going to go?
I'm going to go for another United win. I think that they're in form. I don't know if they're fully in form because you never really know with United. They're so inconsistent. But I would say they're close to the top. They're close to the top four. They could smell it. They could sense it. It's not been a bad season, or it's not been a season that we've been used to seeing of United in recent years. So against a tough Bournemouth side, I still back United at home to do the business. I'm going to go Man United 2-1.
Well, okay, let's get into the Carabao Cup. There is 3 ties this week. Arsenal's one comes up the following week. But let's start with Cardiff against Chelsea. Banana skin or the Premier League team to go through? Which way do you see it?
Well, Cardiff are absolutely flying in League One. They are one of my old teams, so I wouldn't mind seeing an upset in this game. However, I do think Chelsea are going to be a little bit too strong for them. Cardiff will, of course, have an eye on the league as well. So I'm going to go Chelsea 2-0. Professional job, get back on the bus to London and start to focus on their Premier League title charge.
Okay, let's get on to Wednesday. Let's start with those games with Manchester City against Brentford.
I expect Pep to rotate a few players around. However, City have got full momentum behind them. Brentford are never an easy side to play against, as a lot of the big sides I've seen this year. However, I'm going with momentum and I'm going to go Man City win. I'm going to go 3-1.
Okay, let's go to St James's Park for the final tie this coming midweek, and that's Newcastle against Fulham.
Well, this is a game that Newcastle will be desperate to win to put the Derby defeat behind them. However, Fulham are no mugs. They've proven that time and time again this season. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Fulham. I think they could actually do the business at St James's Park.
And there's one game in the Conference League. This is Crystal Palace against Kups of Finland. Stephen, how will this one finish?
I only see victory for Palace here. I think that by winning this, obviously, puts them on their charge to win the trophy, because Palace just love winning trophies. 2025 has been their year. They've won 2 trophies this year. Why not go and win another one next year? They're flying in the Premier League, and a win on Thursday night will put them in a very strong position to go all the way and win the Conference League as well. So I'm going to go with a 3-0 home win.
That about wraps it up for this week's Kicking Off. Thanks very much for joining us.
If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Ask us anything you want to know, and we'll make sure to include it in next week's show. Thanks for watching. See you next time.